The DreamHack Master Spring 2020, and boy, what a deliverance it has been thus far. Action day in and day out as we really do pummel through these best of threes time and time again. We've already even sent some teams home. North have already packed their bags. They are already, well, I guess they're not getting on a flight anytime soon, but they are certainly out of the running here. Welcome back, everybody. I want to introduce you to my esteemed colleagues here on the digital desk. Of course, we have that of Halvor, we have that of Jacob, and I'm sure they had a great night's sleep. Let's talk about your whole lives.
Me first?
You first.
Yes, actually, yes.
Yeah, no, life's great. Life's great. Good night's sleep. Good amount of Counter-Strike yesterday as well. I'm pretty happy about the state of things, all things considered, I guess. Yeah, life's good.
Yeah, I mean, I woke up, went for a run, then I streamed for 3 hours, and now I have to sit with you guys for 8 hours. So that's an interesting life I'm living right now. Let's put it that way.
You went for a run?
I went for a run, and then, yeah.
Lost your mind completely.
Nah, it felt good.
Well, the real question is, like, what do you see along the side of your run? Because there's runs being made here within the side of this tournament, and I kind of just want to see how that all pans out. So do you have any sort of equation that could work there, Jacob?
No, it's just, when I go for a run, I think about life, I think about all sorts of random stuff. And I was thinking to myself, wow, North, they really can't get it together, can they? When I was doing that run, it's one of those teams that just has so much potential, but they just can't make it work. And the run is over for them in this tournament, but for teams like Mad Lions, Complexity, and Mouse Sports, they're still very much in it.
Yeah, and that's the funny part is all I see all day is in Omega Lol Orth, right? Or Orth, I don't even know how you'd make that last part of that word.
That's right.
But I see that all the time, and obviously they're going to be one of the teams we talk about because they did go out first in their group. They went out 1 and 2. They only won one matchup. And overall, that's just not what we really expected for North and a team that we kind of hoped would show a little bit more.
Yeah, and I mean, obviously they come into this with a pretty difficult situation, right? Like they obviously would have wanted to have KRB playing for them instead. Obviously, he's on a sick leave right now. I think it's Christo from HEF who's currently hopping in for them, and for him, that's quite the jump as well. And just in terms of trying to, I guess, catch on to the level that of opponents that he's going up against, that's not an easy transition, and he doesn't necessarily had a smooth transition either. So I'm honestly quite surprised by the fact that North managed to actually pick up one game or one series in their group stage so far. And I think like eventually we're going to see more consistency out of them. But obviously it's a pretty tough spot to be in right now.
But, one thing that is not tough is being Danish. Is that right, Jacob? Is being Danish, is it just like naturally easy for you, this game that is?
Yeah, I mean, I've never tried anything else, Trace, so I wouldn't know.
Interesting, because I was going to say that there's no possible way that there was any way that anything is easy for you, Jacob. What we got to do now, though, is build it up just a little bit of a crescendo. I would ask you guys to sing along with me in this song that I prepared, but I would much rather just get the hype started in a more appropriate fashion. So let's do it. And now, finally, it's live. Come here, son. Come here, son. Say hello to the camera. Cool. This is my friend Hugo, and he's going to be casting a game later. That's right. We got all kind of Counter-Strike coming your way, to include that of my analysts right here who know all about Counter-Strike. I've already introduced them once. We've already built the hype once, and now I want to try to redeem some hype here for the side of Mouse Sports. What has happened to this team?
I don't know. I really, really do not know. They were looking so good at the later stages of 2019. They started out 2020 with fire. They won a few tournaments, and they were at a certain point ranked as the #1 team in the world. Obviously, we all knew that that wasn't really the case. They were farming a lot of points in, dare I say, some relatively smaller tournament. And when they couldn't deliver the results at IM Katowice, we got to see the Mouse Sports that I think we all expected. A team that is around top 5, maybe top 4, maybe top 3 on a good day, but not more than that. Ever since, though, this online campaign they put up has been abysmal, right? It's been super terrible. They haven't been playing well at all at any point, I feel like, and it's just getting worse and worse and worse. So what we saw from Mouse Sports yesterday, that to me is a sign of a crisis right here. Regin didn't want to say it last week when they didn't perform in Road to Rio, that it's a crisis. Now I think we can put that term on them. Mouse Sports right now finding himself in a big crisis.
Well, look, Halvor, I want to talk about Rops as one of those players that's trying to keep the ship afloat there. Now, albeit some ships are a little bit larger and require a lot more to keep them above water when they're in trouble.
Yeah, I mean, Rops is definitely not on the Titanic, so it's not necessarily a hopeless mission to try to keep the ship afloat. But he's been actually one of the few consistent performers on the side of Mouse Sports, even throughout this slump. Again, we saw it, in the yesterday's series versus Complexity. These kind of rounds, like the Deagle rounds he had here, was actually one of the few rounds they were able to pick up. Like when Mouse Sports were actually getting stuff done, it was off of heroics from their individuals, and Rops had two instances of that. The Deagle round being one, and then obviously the kind of like weird ninja-esque round where he snuck up on A-Long to win. I think it was a 1v3, but it's just not enough right now, really, for Mouse Sports. They can't solely rely on Rops. That's not, what's given them success in the past, even though he's been a super consistent performer. They need more out of guys like Chris J. Voxic needs to step up and get back to his previous level. And we need to find some sort of, mode for Frozen that's not necessarily just hot and cold.
But, no Katy Perry needed, Halvor. None of that. We don't need any of that. What we do need to do is hear from the coach direct. We actually called up with Ragin yesterday, who also said some things along the lines of not being happy. What did he have to say?
I cannot monitorize how we're working from home. I cannot monitorize the players, so I can only take their word for it when they say they're doing their best. It's easy to see when Kerrigan is doing his best, because then he just comes up with 700 new pages of tactical choices we have to do and have to learn, but the rest is up to themselves, and trust them. They're working as hard as possible,
and they can work as hard as possible, and that that can all make sense. But when something isn't working and it's not working and you don't have an end game in sight for that, what do you do? Halvor, you're working with a team now. Talk to me about it.
I mean, I could definitely relate to, I guess, some of the issues that Ragin is feeling, especially like coming from a coach perspective. When you're not on the server as well, you can only do so much to prepare your teammates. And right. I think like one of the big issues that he's alluding to is the fact that you can't necessarily do quality control on the practice that players are putting in, because you might be pugging a lot, but that's not necessarily efficient training for what you're meant to do. But again, like these players are experienced enough to know what they should do. They don't necessarily need a babysitter to hold their hand and kind of guide them through the bare basics. So I'm a little bit disappointed by the fact that we haven't seen better individual performances out of Mouse Sports.
Which is a crazy thing altogether. I mean, that's just a whole other talking point I want to have with you over there at some point. But then again, did you catch that big game yesterday? When I say a big game, I'm talking about a big Mad Lions game. Did you catch that one?
Yeah, no, I did, and pleasantly surprised from what I saw from the Germans. Again, it seems like Searson's finding his spot in this big team, which is a ton of potential that is being unleashed for the German squad. Like in terms of individual skill, this might be the best iteration of a German team we've had in quite some time. So I'm kind of hoping to see that they might be able to maintain that going further.
Yeah, but come on. No one's really talking about big anymore, right? Berlin International Gaming, they're cool and stuff, but have you ever heard of the Mad Lions, Jacob?
Yeah, I've heard about the Mad Lions, and I think they were rather disappointing yesterday. And as Christine said as well a few times, maybe a bit rusty. They have not played a game since they won the Flashpoint final against MIBR, so they had plenty of time to practice. But coming into this one, it didn't look like that was the case, especially their own map of Nuke. We see it right here. That was simply just not good enough for Mad Lions. So right. I think, as you said, Big, they are... It's the same with North, right? They show glimpses, they show they can be good in certain periods, but they never really get up to the level where we expect them to be. But I will say, though, that they are showing me that they're on the right track right now. It's getting better and better. It's been relatively consistent with the online results. They played some smaller tournaments, which they won, and that's okay, that's fine. But they need to step it up another notch if they want to take it all the way to the top.
Well, Mad Lions, North, they all have something in common. It's a big question mark, talking point even, within a lot of different regions about just how Denmark is going to fare at the end of all of this when it all comes together and every team can seemingly figure out which 5 it takes to win for their organization. In fact, let's learn a little bit more about that Danish wonder.
On this ace, I really do hope that one corner, the device is molly. Hello and goodbye.
Wow, somehow the trades have ended up in favor of G2. I thought Nico was going to get more done there. Cadian, he's wiggling and jiggling over in CT. And he's on to another. Go on, Cadian, my son.
I think the reason why Denmark has such a widespread of talented players and teams is because of our lower tier scene in Denmark is pretty good actually. I think we have a lot of players and England leaders as well who has a lot to give, and they can kind of form the younger players.
Oh, right, great. We got players for U2, we got no Orb in the last round of the half in MSL. He is looking to take these players away. He's done that. Looking like a 6-9 end of half, and MSL will make...
For example, our team, I have never played with any of these teammates that I have now, Shus and Bubski and all of these, but they have been playing with other in-game leaders in Denmark like Haste or Barry, probably names you don't really know, but these kind of persons really help the Danish scene a lot in terms of growing players and learning them the fundamentals.
Taking all his attention away, and he knows someone's there. He gets the kill on Cirque and actually falls into the bomb site. There might be a shot at this peeking. Tarek, that's dangerous. 10 seconds left now. And not getting in the second one and taking down Tarek. A ridiculous drop.
That's one of the parts where a lot of other countries maybe lag a little bit because they don't have these kind of persons who can teach the younger players the fundamentals of the game. And I think that's one of the main reasons to why we are so good in Denmark.
And when he says why they are so good in Denmark, he's talking about Astralis because there is a massive shadow that's set behind them. Of course, if you are interested in watching the Mad Lions play, you could do that a little bit later as they're going to be taking on Complexity. But for the time being, I kind of want to look at all of the groups. I'm going to start with EU considering that's where we are, and I think it's only appropriate to give this one over to you, Halvor. Walk us through quickly a little bit of Group A and what we're looking at so far with Group B.
I mean, Group A, as you said, already concluded, had its finalization of G2 topping that. Somewhat surprisingly, I guess, toppling Astralis in a big way. That's a really, really big win for the Frenchies and obviously the Serbians. North, again, we talked about it. We touched on it a little bit. Disappointing to see them not being able to make it out of the groups. But again, positive signs for the Danes in one way, and the fact that Heroic are actually, playing some pretty decent CS. Over in Group B, pretty early days so far, but we've already had some small upsets, I guess. Complexity pretty much trouncing Mouse Sports was really impressive to watch. And yeah, we got the German versus Danish showdown. Big versus Mad Lions, where Big took the dub.
A big game right there. You see what I did there?
That's the biggest of games, in fact.
It's kind of cheese, but honestly, we've been doing it around the house just about every single day, and I think it was Harry that really coined that one.
Of course, it's Harry.
Oh, you guys, we got that big Mad Lions game coming up later today. Yeah, that's a Harry Russell sort of joke. So anyway, we'll get into that at a certain point. We do have the North American side of things, and a new logo for the Evil Genius is loaded in, locked in, and ready to go. North America, well, of course, there are some faltering giants there in the terms of Liquid. That is a bitter pill to swallow, of course.
Yeah, sure is, and they haven't been looking good as of recently, right? It's a team that is supposed to be one of the best in the world, and the way they're performing right now is rather disappointing. They haven't outplayed their role just yet. They can, with a win and a little bit of luck, still go through to the playoff, but definitely not looking good for the North American side over there.
rough, especially if you look at that other side. I can't wait for the other group to really kick off in full force, though. I'm excited for the Gen G project, and I would love to see where the evil geniuses go with the departure of Pet, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, moving so forth and so on. And I think that's just about where we are. We've taken a look at the groups. We've kind of ran the gauntlet there. The one thing that I haven't done appropriately today is thank those that made it possible. The people like Corsair, Intel, Monster, DTS, AT&T, and Betway. Now, Jacob, I want you to pick one of these and say something nice about them.
Say something nice about them. I'm playing on an Intel processor, you know, and without them, I wouldn't be able to stream trace. So I'm pretty happy for them to actually make my career go up in a hole.
That's not bad. That was pretty good. You think you can do better, Halvor?
I mean, I'm even showcasing it. I mean, you can't see Jacob's Intel processor, but you can see my Corsair headset, which is giving me crisp and clear sound all the way through the broadcast.
Yes, crisp and clear, sort of like the 16 days of Counter-Strike that we do have in front of us, and it all really continues today with the games that we have on hand. That's what we're going to begin to look at when we come back. Our first best of 3 is just about set, and I want to drag this out to the point that the timer in the bottom right reaches 1337, but I don't know if I can do it. So we will put the timer away. We will go to a break. We will come back with the DreamHack Master Spring 2020 Mouse Sports in the server. And they're not going to be alone. Big Clan will be right there with them.
Got a little cash, a little sour mash to meet the girl of my dreams. You're like a beauty queen from a magazine. I gotta take my chance. That door swing open wide and here she comes. Everybody turns their head. The band just don't stop dead. She's crazy, beautiful. Whoa, oh, oh. She's crazy, beautiful. And it's driving me wild. She's crazy, beautiful. Whoa, oh, oh. I can't get that picture out of my head. 'Cause she's crazy, beautiful. Emerald green eyes and a perfect smile. She sure can draw a crowd. Sweet as champagne, it's making me insane. It shouldn't be allowed. Yeah, but I'd do anything. I'd even buy a ring if I got the chance. Her favorite song came on, and here she comes. Everybody turns their head. The band just don't stop dead. She's crazy, beautiful. Whoa, oh, oh. She's crazy, beautiful. And it's driving me wild. She's crazy, beautiful. Whoa,
baby, we are back in business for the DreamHack Master Spring 2020, featuring a little bit of mouse sports, taking on the Berlin International Gaming Squad, also known as Big, and they are going to be a big problem for this mouse sports, who can't seem to find the footing that they need to find. Of course, I have Halvor and Jacob with me to walk this one in right into the game and right into the pistol round. Guys, welcome back. We've already discussed all the nitty-gritty of all of the other stuff, but now we need to talk about the game at hand, the matchup at hand. This best of 3 right here, it's got some explosive potential, but only if the players in the server show up on the certain day.
I think you're right. I think Big right now, they're smelling blood, right? They're smelling mouse sports right now. They are not doing good. They are a wounded animal, and they're playing some of the worst Counter-Strike this iteration of mouse sports potentially have ever played. So if I'm Big Clan right now after the victory yesterday, I'm smelling blood. I'm smelling an opportunity, not only to win this game, but potentially to finish first in this group. So I am 100% sure they're highly motivated. Whereas for mouse sports, they stand with nothing to win and everything to lose. If they go down to Big Clan, which is the only, there's a German organization they fight for within that area of the world, then they will lose a lot of stuff. Not only their own pride, but also the fact that they are in a crisis right now. So mouse sports, all pressures on you, Big Clan. If you win, it's cool. If you lose, well, it's still mouse sports.
And let's talk to Halvor about losing pride. How does it feel to lose your pride, Halvor?
I mean, I wouldn't know, but from watching both you and Jacob, in real life, I can only imagine it's hurtful. It's not an easy thing to go out, go about your day with. And for mouse sports, they are a bit of a wounded animal, and I think for them to lose the Big, as Jacob outlines it's obviously the fact that they're obviously decreasing their chances of going through to the playoffs, but they're also kind of losing to the only, I guess, German rival they really have. Even though obviously there's not a lot of German players on the mouse sports team, the organization has always been the pride of German esports in many ways. So this is a big matchup for them in more ways than just one.
Jacob?
Yeah, it sure is. It's hard to put more words on it. I feel like for mouse sports right now, like with Jin, what he said in the interview is that he wants to be more hands-on, right? He wants to be able to touch the players there. Said he wants to be able to look them in the eyes and tell them, you gotta get your shit together, basically as it is, right? He doesn't have that option right now, and I think that's a big problem for mouse sports. I think there's 2 teams who's really suffering under that. That's going to be G2 with Malik. The way he's coaching, he's very animated. Same goes on for Regin. They don't have that anymore. And then we need to see the mental state of these players. You have him on your screen right here. Robs, we already talked about him. Well, he's been playing well. Frozen, supposed to be the next big star, not only within mouse sports, but potentially in the world. Hasn't really been playing up to a high level. Voxic had a fantastic 2019 with the AWP, has been nowhere near that level in 2020 so far. And Chris J, he's doing his job, Kerrigan doing his job, but we need that X factor coming in from the mouse sports players, and we haven't seen it enough in 2020.
Now, I do think that you're onto something right there, but Jacob, look me right in my eye right now. Look me right in my eye. And you tell me that this Kerrigan and Ragin project can't be put back on the right path. It can't find the rails that it needs. You tell me that by looking in my eyes.
I can't look in your eyes first and foremost. But second of all, Ragin and Kerrigan, look at Kerrigan's history, right? Whenever he goes to a team, he finds success within the first half year to a year, and then it drops down. It was the same thing in TSM/Astralis, same thing in FaZe. They were doing so well for a year or 2, and then drops down. This is the first crisis mouse sports is in, and this is the first time Kerrigan will have to play his way out of it. There's no way that they're going to kick Kerrigan from this lineup. He is mouse sports as it is right now. That being said, though, Kerrigan, he needs to find a way to get out of these slumps, because we saw it in Astralis, we saw it in FaZe Clan. He didn't find a way out, and if that's going to happen here in mouse sports as well, this entire project could die, and that's not what we want to see.
No, we definitely do not want to see the end of mouse sports. I would love to hear what they had to say before that happens, if it were to happen. So perhaps we just check in with them right now.
Last time we played the biggest, back in October. I think by then a lot of stuff happened within the lineups. We were a team going towards top 5 in the world, and Big went through a big change in how they see their lineup, with Smooya out, Smooya in, right? So I think it's 2 different teams and where they are, and right now I feel like Big is coming up again and we're going a little down.
It's been set up for the big spray down here, but he catches the flash himself. He's got that first to the hunter, there's 10 seconds remaining.
I think the pressure is on us in all the matches in the group. We are the bigger team. We are supposed to beat these teams. But when it comes to online, it's always different, right? So we need to keep the same focus level as on LAN, or maybe even close to it. It's really hard to keep the same, obviously, when you're not looking at each other and hype each other up.
It's going to be down to Nexus to try to get a farm down. I don't think he's got a chance there. Carrigan's done so well, and he manages to get all the kills required, 4 in total.
Player for player, we have better individual players than Big. But team play is important for CS, and that's why I think it's going to be a tough game against Big, because they are good in the team play aspect, and I think it's going to be a hard game against them.
Yeah, he does make a very good point there about team play, and I want to make a point about team play as well. Before we go any further, I just want to say to you, Jacob, that I've always been one of your biggest fans, and seriously, one of your biggest supporters. I love you, man. And I hope you don't take any of this to heart. But if you did, I hope it didn't sting too bad. Now, let's move a little bit further. We hear from the side of Kerrigan. What's your take on it, Jacob?
I mean, he's spot on. I think he's saying some of the same things as Regin, or at least implying some of the same things. The fact that they're not together, the fact that they're not boot camping, the fact that they don't look each other in the eyes and actually, you know, I think when you look at Kerrigan, when you think about Regin as well as a coach, they thrive well from the energy they can produce into a lineup, and they can't replicate that energy online right now, and that's simply not good enough. Kerrigan, he doesn't want to talk about the fact that he's had a past history with FaZe Clan and Astralis, and that's fair enough, but it's tough for them. It's tough for them.
And it is. And we're going to shift our focus over to the big clan because they got a big game coming up. We got a big guy to talk about it. His name's Halvor. He goes by Vendetta. And there are no V's around here for victory just yet for the big clan over Mouse Sports. But is today the day, Halvor?
It very well might be, honestly. Big of our team that, again, seemingly finding their form, which is not something that could be said for Mouse Sports. Again, this is the prime time, really, for them to grab a W and actually take a whole series versus a team that's, you know, more or less always had their... I guess got the better end of the deal, right? I'm actually a little bit surprised by the fact that Kerrigan so confidently says, like, yeah, we are just better individuals. And yeah, sure, like to an extent, they might be a tad bit better, but I think someone like tabseN at his peak level can actually be better than all of the Mouse Sports players. We've seen that in the past. tabseN has been a phenomenal player when he hits his stride.
That's too much.
No, really. Again, like tabseN at one point was a top 5 player in the world. Like you'd be hard pressed to actually be able to deny that. So,
I'm gonna deny it.
So wait, but hold on now. Can you deny that, Jacob?
I can deny it. Like tabseN has, and I agree with you. He's been. You said it yesterday, Halvor. He's been too good for Big Clan for quite some time, and I think tabseN is potentially a superstar down the line, right? But when you compare him to a guy like Voxic, when you compare him to, I would even go as far as saying Robs when he's playing at his best. I don't think tabseN is better than those two. Like, no.
I mean, from that point, you're actually, it sounds like you're rating Voxic over Robs even. And I don't think there's a universe where that is correct, even.
Judging by 2019, I think there's a case to be made that both of them could be switched around back and forth.
And I don't think either of you convinced me to anything. So there's that. I mean, you both lose your own arguments. I don't even know how you did it. It's impressive, guys. It's feats we've never seen around here. Speaking of feat, we're going to take a look at the other side of the table now and hear what they have to say going into this game.
Our mood is completely different than it was before. We are way more confident in general in this team like we were before.
But it does feel like Mouse Sports, they've got to have the edge, surely.
I would say for a team which is more comfortable on LAN, it's a little bit harder to play online. I really enjoy playing online as well. It's a little bit of a different feeling because many people tend to peak more, tend to be more aggressive than they should be. Maybe we'll see some of these things also on LAN.
This next kill between the two Turkish players decides so.
Mouse Sports needs to show that they are a top team again. They are a little bit shaking last few games. They didn't make the playoffs for the Road to Rio. And definitely they need to perform again. And I would say that they need to show us again. They need to be more under pressure than us. It's for us basically a home game. We can just show what we are capable of doing. We will prepare and we will show the best.
And when I said that, I meant that. I'm not sure what you heard, but perhaps we'll leave it at that. Now, moreover, let's talk a little bit about this into a different light. Now, obviously, we have two different parties here. We do have Halvor and we do have Jacob, and they both seemingly want to take two different goes at this. Big in one corner, Mouse Sports at the other. Let's begin to focus on what the maps are, though. I think a veto is going to be very crucial here between these two teams, and I think if there was a time to beat up on Mouse Sports, its time is now.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Again, we saw yesterday that Mouse Sports, I guess, went through a veto stage that we didn't necessarily fully follow, and again, it didn't necessarily pan out for them. I've never been too big of a proponent of teams picking Dust 2 as their go-to choice, and that definitely burnt Mouse Sports yesterday. Today, quite a different approach. They actually banned out Nuke yesterday. Sure, they played a different team in Complexity who have been pretty proficient on that map, but then picking into it at this stage, again, like a little bit of a surprise, but we do know that they could be a really, really potent team on that specific map.
Yeah,
and tell me, Jacob, is Jacob potent?
Definitely, all day, all night, man. I think when you look at these maps, I think it's going exactly the way you want it to for Mouse Sports, right? Nuke, it is a great map for them. I think they got scared away from it because they lost 16-1 to Fnatic not so long ago in Pro League, but that was also a terrible game for Mouse Sports. Vertigo is not a bad map for Mouse Sports at all. The way you're sitting there and looking in the camera, I can't handle it. Vertigo is not a bad map
Jacob,
for Mouse Sports.
right in your eyes.
I know, and you can't do that out of physical reasons. Dust 2 is a map I think both teams can be happy for a third map. I think Big Clan showing a little bit too much confidence in the Vertigo by picking it right here. I don't think they were good against Mad Lions yesterday. I think Mad Lions were bad on Vertigo, so we need to see Big playing even better on Vertigo if they want to win their own map pick today.
Yeah, Halvor, what's your quick take on this one right off the top? Does this at a surface level look like a big series?
The only thing that has me a little bit iffy is the fact that I would have loved to see Big actually pick Inferno as a decider potentially, and for that reason, I'm actually going to have to lean the way of Mouse Sports.
Okay.
Right, and that would make sense. I would ask you guys all to participate in our Twitch vote. You know how this goes. Hashtag Mouse Sports or hashtag Big Clan, or actually just hashtag Big. You don't have to put the clan behind it. That's where your votes are going to lie. We're going to tally those up. When we come back from the break, we're going to jump into checking out those numbers and moreover, kicking off some more of our own. We got a best of 3 on our hands, and it's a big one. It's a huge one. It's a gargantuous one. It's going to be big, taking on that of Mouse Sports right here for DreamHack Master Spring 2020, y'all.